that when the user clicks on the refresh button, it goes into the web part of the application and invokes a script called app_bar_refresh. App_bar_refresh is on the index.html page right here. So this is some nice interactivity between the hosting Windows Phone application and the PhoneGap application. So I'll run it, and you'll see that the app bar in our PhoneGap app now looks just like the app bar for any other Windows Phone app, and it gives a nice sense of continuity. So there's the PhoneGap app bar button. So I'll click refresh. Every time I click it, it'll just give me the latest date and time. So that's one type of interactivity. That's within the app. Now let's say you didn't like that. You didn't want to do anything to change the UI or your app between the different platforms. That's fine. Still a lot of interesting things you can do. One of them is to integrate with Bing Search. So if I open a project here that is, again, a PhoneGap application, but it's a Bing Maps search task. And we will go down into our www folder. And down in our, that's not where we want. In our main page, we have a search with Bing Maps button. And this map button is going to call the show gap function. Here's the show map function. I'm going to get my current position, and I'm going to then show any items that are found near that position. So this would be how I would search for Starbucks near me. Now this Bing Maps plugin is actually a little bit of C# code that bridges the gap between PhoneGap and the Windows Phone application. If I go into the plugins library here, you'll see I have this PG Bing Maps, and this just defines the connection between my PhoneGap JavaScript and my Windows Phone application. Let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to simulate my location services. So in my emulator, I'm actually going to pretend I'm at a certain location. I'm going to put 30009, which is, or 30002, which is Atlanta. I'm not actually in Florida, as Edwin said. I'm in Atlanta. And this detected the geolocation API is ported. So if I set my point right here, that's going to be where the application and the phone emulator thinks I am. So now, if I type in Starbucks, and I'll search, it should give me Starbucks that are near that location. Oops. Oh, I was looking for that earlier. Yeah. Let me do a clear map here. Go back, and we'll try something else. We'll try let's try coffee. Okay. Well, let's just try Atlanta. It's a little bit bigger than coffee. Hopefully we can find that. There we go. Okay, so there's Atlanta. Yeah, it worked. Really, that's the types of things you can do with the interactivity. So that particular customization didn't require me to change anything about my PhoneGap application. So that's another approach as well. I have all of these samples that I'm showing here posted on my blog, which is at glengordon.name. So you can go there, and I've got a bunch of PhoneGap entries in here. So that's something you can check out. Edwin, any questions out there?
Let's see. Opening it up for questions. No one. Going once? All right, go ahead.
Wait, so you searched Starbucks and coffee earlier. Is this like, just a special case with the emulator not working, or does it actually not work?
Is it a special case where the emulator is not working, or does it actually not work for the search for coffee?
I don't know. One way you can duplicate that is if we went to search here, and we went to look for coffee. This actually worked, so it found coffee near me. So I think it was just something quirky in the demo. Or maybe the emulator hadn't caught up. Oh, look, Dancing Goat's Coffee Bar. That's interesting. What's that? Oh, that sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, so that's, what you're doing is you're tapping into these Bing searches from your application. And really, it should have found coffee near your location. I'm not sure why it didn't.
Was there like a search radius, maybe? Yeah.
Could be. Could have been.
Okay. And one more question.
When the Zune first came out, one of the things that differentiated it from the iPod was that you had this whole social networking aspect to it, where you could like share music with people and like tell them what you're listening to. And the Zune failed like when it was compared in stats to the iPod in sales. So when it comes to
we don't say it failed. It sort of morphed.
When it comes to the iOS having such a strong market and the Android having such a strong market, how will Windows Phone play against these two big competitors when at the moment it's not that strong?
How will Windows Phone play against the two competitors when it's not a super strong phone right now, or a super?
Like the Zune and just more out of the market, or?
Will Zune morph out of the market? I mean, Dean covered a bit of it, but go ahead. Go ahead, Glenn.
Right. Zune is a larger brand name that more has to do with the services and the players independently. In fact, the full name of it was a Zune player. The music within Windows Phone, the music marketplace, that's Zune. Within the Xbox 360, when you go into the music and the video player, that's Zune. So that that's still around. I think the question at the beginning was whether that social aspect of Zune is still going to be there. Is that right?
Where is it? How do you want to summarize your question? Sort of what is the answer you're looking for?
How would the Windows Phone compete against?
How will the Windows Phone compete against iOS and Android?
Fantastic partners like Nokia. And great applications, which the next best application has not been written yet. So you guys are poised to do so.
Do you have an answer to?
Yeah. Because I'm not mic'd here, so.
Oh.
Just to kind of summarizing what I was actually trying to get at before is that if you look at industry analysts, and again, this is not either of us talking, but they're not kidding. They're saying that because of our excellence in manufacturing handsets, because of our global reach, and because of this amazing technology that is both a combination of hardware and software, other people are predicting that we will directly compete and succeed against the two gigantic current phone platforms out there. I mean, again, I think there's a slight thing of experience here that Apple has not always been a dominant player in this space. And in fact, I myself, in my own kind of long tech career, have seen the rise and fall and rise of Apple in my own lifetime. And you are currently seeing the rise of Nokia again in a partnership with Microsoft. So there's a lot here. And this, again, the thing we're doing strategy-wise with both apps and the development of apps and this whole ecosystem, as well as the platform and the phones, is quite remarkable. And I really suggest that, even in addition to these email things, just go down to an AT&T or a T-Mobile store and check it out for yourselves. In fact, the Lumi 900, until Friday, it's free. It's $99, but we credit you $100 back. It's basically free with a contract. So check it out.
Also, I mean, for gaming, Xbox, when that first came out, PlayStation's the dominant one. There's no way Xbox and Microsoft can, get into the gaming space, and look where we are now. Same thing, rise and fall of Apple and rise again. It happens, up and down. Glenn, do you have something else?
No, that was good.
Okay. One more question.
Yeah, so I know Windows 8 and Windows on ARM is going to come out in a couple of months, hopefully.
Yep.
What sort of integration will there be between Windows 7, Windows Phone 7 and Windows 8? How hard will it be to transition Windows Phone app to a
Oh, Glenn, yeah, this is a really exciting story. That's a good question. That deserves an Xbox game. Sort of, so we're at, how, with Windows 8 coming out, sorry, as I take his hand off, with Windows 8 coming out, how are we looking at sort of integration, from Windows Phone to Windows 8, creating apps, sort of having this like nice one ecosystem where you build an app somewhere and it, you can basically port it to another thing like Windows 8 or the phone.
Right. So think of it from two perspectives, right? From the end user's perspective, everything they see going forward is going to be Metro. Windows 8, the Metro design, that took its cue. Windows Phone, which took its cues from Zune, bringing that one, back into play again. The new Xbox dashboard has a lot of Metro style things with tiles. So people are going to get used to that. There's going to be a lot of cross-selling opportunities. Give a Metro designed app on Windows 8. Sell your mobile version on Windows Phone and vice versa. So from the consumer perspective, there's going to be a nice brand identity across all the different platforms. From the developer perspective, the approach is very similar in that you're going to have a very simple UI that's crisp and visually oriented with high contrast graphics and that sort of thing. And you're going to have a lot of reusable assets, fonts, styles, that sort of thing between the various platforms. There is, potential for a convergence of the platform with the sort of write once, run anywhere. We have not made any roadmap announcements in that area. So today the story is simply, Windows 8 development with the Metro style apps is going to be C# and XAML, or Visual Basic and XAML, or HTML5 and JavaScript. And Windows Phone 7 development will continue to be C# or Visual Basic with XAML in the form of Silverlight app or an XNA app for a 2D or 3D game. And so you'll get some code reuse across those if you have business logic or game logic. You've got connectivity logic, or you've got some server in the cloud that you're using to retrieve data and save data to. You'll be able to do all of that with a library that you can move from a Windows 8 app over to a Windows Phone app. But that's going to be the story for a little bit of time today.
Cool. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Yep, go ahead.
Are there any big limitations by using PhoneGap to do development instead of Visual Basic Studio?
What are the limitations of perhaps using PhoneGap to develop a phone app versus Visual Studio?
Okay, well, so for Visual Studio, we're actually in Visual Studio, but we're using the PhoneGap framework instead of using the Silverlight framework. Actually, we're using both at the same time. You're just not writing anything in Silverlight. The main disadvantage is the fact that it is, in fact, a browser. So if I am running this app, just to show you one of the ones that was on here that was PhoneGap, there's our starter kit, right? So we ran this. It's going to feel like a browser because if the user once this comes up here, if the user double taps the screen, it's going to do this little bounce in and out because it's thinking you're on a web page. Also, you have the ability, in some cases, you can highlight the text and copy it, and there it's going right now. So it doesn't understand that it's an app. It still thinks that it's rendering as a web page. So it's a good way to get started and get a feel, and primarily this HTML5 is targeted at people who already have PhoneGap applications on other platforms and want to bring them to Windows Phone very quickly. But as I showed, you would then begin to add Windows Phone specific features, the Bing search or an app bar or other things in the marketplace like a trial version of your app. You'd add those features little by little, and eventually you would probably consider migrating over to an actual full native app instead of HTML5. So all the limitations there are basically because it's a mini browser running as an app.
Okay. All right, we're going to actually pause for 10 seconds while they change tape, and then we'll answer one or two more questions, and then we want to kind of go through quick resources for Silverlight phone development, and then I'll let you go. The question is, how difficult is it to do image processing in PhoneGap?
So the answer to that would be, it depends how difficult it would be to do in JavaScript. There's no libraries internal to PhoneGap to do image processing. So you would either have to find some way to do it in JavaScript or find some way to do it in C# inside of the Silverlight app and communicate back with the hosted